There's a moment in life when you realize time has slipped through your fingers. You look around, and it feels like everyone else started before you, earlier steps, earlier wins, earlier recognition. And that realization can be heavy. It can make you question whether it's even worth it to begin now, so late, so far behind. But here's the truth that will shift everything: time lost doesn't define you, what you do now does. The calendar might show years past, but purpose doesn't measure in clocks, it measures in commitment. What really matters is not how long you've delayed, but how deeply you're willing to commit now. Because the moment you decide to act with full intention, life bends. Time bends. It's not about the quantity of time left, it's about the intensity of your focus and the purity of your effort. A late start with burning clarity will always outrun a head start with no direction. There are people who've walked for years on a path that wasn't even theirs. But you've chosen to walk awake. And that means you're already ahead in a deeper way. Yes, you started late. That's the reality. But it's not the end. It's the beginning of something different, something built on awareness, not autopilot. The people who start early often move blindly through routines handed to them. But when you start late, you don't have time for surface. You are forced to go deep. You are forced to ask hard questions, and your answers are not casual, they're intentional. That intention is your advantage. It gives you an edge that the early starters may never develop. What you do now carries more weight, not because the past didn't matter, but because you now understand the value of every single moment. You no longer see time as endless, you see it as sacred. That shift in perception is your power. It turns ordinary action into radical acceleration. You're no longer playing the game of one day. You've entered the space of right now. And in that space, miracles can happen. But it requires one thing: the decision to let go of regret and take ownership of this moment. Not just talk about it. Not just wish for it. Act. Own the grind. Own the early mornings, the late nights, the sacrifices others don't see. You have to develop a kind of obsession, not for outcomes, but for alignment. For progress. For discipline. You don't get to move casually anymore. Your work must carry the weight of urgency without anxiety, just a relentless hunger to become. And when that hunger meets action, it doesn't matter where you started. It only matters that you're moving now. This moment, this breath, this choice, this is where your new timeline begins. Time lost? That's the lesson. Time now? That's the decision. And what happens next? That's on you. You're not defined by your delay. You're defined by how ferociously you rise from it. Let that fuel you. Let that remind you that it's not too late, it's finally time. Most people don't start late, they stay asleep. They walk through life numb, following routines, chasing empty rewards, doing what they think they're supposed to do without ever questioning why. They exist, but they don't live. So when you say you've started late, understand this: you didn't fall behind, you just woke up. And waking up is rare. Waking up is powerful. Waking up is the moment your soul stops settling for average and demands alignment. This isn't about comparing yourself to others who began before you. That's a distraction. You don't know what they're chasing, you don't know what drives them, and you don't know if they're even aware of who they are. What you do know is that you've reached a point where something inside of you refuses to stay silent. That voice that says, "I can't keep living like this," that's not weakness, it's your beginning. That's the spark that changes everything. The pain of starting late is real. But it's also proof that you've gained clarity. You can't regret the years spent asleep if they brought you to the awareness you have now. You had to go through the fog to recognize what light looks like. You had to feel the emptiness to understand what fullness requires. And now that you see it, you can't unsee it. Now that you feel it, you can't unfeel it. The illusion is broken. This is the beginning of conscious life. When most people look back, they remember years filled with busyness, but not purpose. They remember accomplishments, but not fulfillment. So if you started late but started awake, you're already ahead of those still living on autopilot. Because awareness isn't just knowing what you want, it's knowing who you're becoming. And that depth cannot be rushed. It's not about how early you begin, it's about how present you are when you do. The world may try to tell you it's too late. That you're too far behind. That the time to act has passed. But that voice isn't speaking from truth, it's speaking from fear. And fear always wants to keep you stuck in patterns. It wants to keep you asleep. But you've broken that cycle. You've stepped into the discomfort of new beginnings. And that choice, even when messy, even when uncertain, is the first true sign of growth. Now that you've awakened, you must protect that awareness with everything you've got. Because the old life will try to pull you back. Old habits. Old thinking. Old comfort zones. They'll whisper that it's safer to shrink than to stretch. But you didn't wake up just to go back to sleep. You didn't become aware just to survive, you're here to build, to rise, to live with fire in your spirit. Every day is now an opportunity to reclaim what was lost, not by recreating the past, but by creating from the present. You're not here to run someone else's race. You're here to run yours with intention. You're not behind. You're just beginning. And beginnings are sacred. Because when you start from truth, you don't need momentum, you become the momentum. You don't need permission, you move because you've seen what's possible. This is your moment. Not just to catch up, but to break through. Not just to try harder, but to live deeper. You're not late, you're just awake. And now that you've opened your eyes, don't you dare close them again. When you start late, you lose the luxury of taking it easy. You can't afford to move like those who had a head start. You don't have time to make excuses, to wait for the perfect moment, or to hope success just finds you. You have to earn every inch, every gain, every breakthrough. That means your work ethic has to be louder than your story, louder than your fear, louder than your guilt. You must replace self-pity with self-discipline. You must stop explaining why you're late and start proving why you're unstoppable. The truth is, life doesn't care when you began. It responds to intensity. It rewards consistency. And the difference between staying behind and catching up lies in how deeply you're willing to show up. This isn't about punishing yourself for the time lost, it's about demanding more from yourself now. Your effort must rise to meet your ambition. Not someday, today. Because when you start late, it's not enough to try hard. You must work harder. Not harder than others, harder than your excuses, your distractions, your temptations. There are going to be days when your mind tells you it's not worth it. When it tries to negotiate comfort in place of commitment. That's the battle you'll have to fight every day. You'll have to remind yourself that you're not here to take shortcuts. You're here to change your life. And changing your life means doing what most people won't do. It means sacrificing the short-term feelings for the long-term vision. It means pushing when you don't feel like it. It means showing up when no one's watching. You have to train your mind to work without validation, to hustle without attention, to grind without needing applause. Because your results won't come overnight. And when you've started late, you'll have to do double the work for half the recognition, at least for a while. But that's not punishment. That's preparation. The process is shaping you into someone who doesn't break under pressure. Someone who builds under silence. Someone who grows through the grind. Let others complain about how hard it is. You're not here for comfort, you're here for transformation. And transformation doesn't happen on accident. It happens in the early mornings, in the late nights, in the moments when no one's cheering for you but you still refuse to quit. That's when you're building something real. That's when you're separating yourself from the version of you that wasted time and settling into the one who's finally ready to rise. You don't get to coast. You don't get to be casual. Every action must carry intention. Every effort must count. If others work to maintain, you work to multiply. When you start late, time becomes sacred. You begin to feel the weight of every minute, not with panic but with purpose. Distraction, once harmless, now becomes dangerous. You don't have the margin others might. You can't afford to waste time scrolling, guessing, or drifting. Focus isn't just helpful, it's your survival. It's the bridge between your delay and your destiny. Without it, your energy will scatter. With it, you become unstoppable. There are things you must say no to now, not because they're bad, but because they don't serve where you're going. This version of you can't be everywhere, do everything, please everyone. You have to narrow in. Clarity must become your obsession. You're not here to dabble. You're here to direct every ounce of yourself toward what matters. You don't have time to start over again. So now, every choice must align with your goal, your mission, your why. Most people let their attention be owned by noise. They chase distractions that give them the illusion of progress. But when you're starting late, you don't chase illusions. You chase impact. That means silencing the chaos, turning down the world's volume, and tuning into your calling. You stop being available to what drains you, and you start guarding your energy like it's your most valuable asset, because it is. This is not about rushing. This is about alignment. When you focus, deeply and intentionally, you move faster, not because you're running, but because you've removed the friction. Every step you take is clean. Every effort you make compounds. That's how you catch up. Not by working endlessly without direction, but by working deliberately with intensity. You move with wisdom, not just willpower. You will be tempted to look around. You will be tempted to compare. But comparison is a thief, it steals the focus you desperately need. The only path you should be watching is the one beneath your feet. Eyes forward. Energy locked in. The question is no longer, what are they doing? It's, what am I building, and, what must I do today to move closer to it? Discipline becomes easier when your focus is clear. Because now, you're not just avoiding distractions, you're choosing something better. You're choosing purpose over comfort. Meaning over entertainment. Growth over stagnation. And with every choice, you train your mind to listen to your spirit instead of your impulses. You teach yourself that the cost of distraction is too high when your time is limited and your mission is big. Every day must have direction. Not perfection, but intention. You wake up knowing why you're waking up. You go to bed knowing you gave the day everything it needed. You're not chasing time, you're investing it. And what you invest in focus will return to you in progress. It will return to you in power. It will return to you in freedom. This is how transformation begins. With awareness. With focus. With a fierce refusal to waste what's left. You may have started late, but if you stay locked in, if you cut the noise, if you move with full presence, you will get further, faster, than those who had all the time but no clarity. Because it's not how soon you begin, it's how sharp you become. When you start late, you don't just need motivation, you need sacrifice. Because time is no longer your luxury. You can't take the long route, and you don't have the cushion of trial and error that others had. That means something must go. And it won't always be easy. You will have to give up comfort, release comparison, and let go of the distractions that once made you feel good but never helped you grow. Sacrifice becomes the price of speed. It becomes the bridge between where you are and where you're called to be. There's no way around it. The life you want will cost you the life you've known. And that's where most people stay stuck, not because they lack talent, but because they aren't willing to trade comfort for purpose. They want change but resist the discomfort that change requires. But you're in a different place now. You've awakened to how short time really is. And once you see that, you can't afford to cling to things that waste your energy, steal your focus, or numb your potential. You will have to sacrifice your old habits, the late nights spent doing nothing, the conversations that drain you, the endless scrolling, the need for approval. You'll have to give up fitting in just to feel safe. You'll have to let go of the fear of missing out, because chasing everything means catching nothing. Your mission now requires you to be selective. Every yes must be rooted in vision. Every no must be backed by discipline. It's not about becoming someone else, it's about becoming who you were meant to be all along. And to do that, you must clear space. That space is created through sacrifice. You can't hold on to the old version of yourself and expect to walk fully into the new. That means there will be seasons of isolation. Seasons where people won't understand why you're changing. Seasons where it feels like you're walking alone. But don't confuse solitude with failure. That silence is where your foundation is being rebuilt. Real growth doesn't happen in the spotlight. It happens in the sacrifice, when no one is watching, when no one is clapping, when you show up anyway. Every time you choose focus over fun, discipline over ease, growth over validation, you're building momentum. You're proving to yourself that your future means more than your temporary feelings. And that's when the shift happens, not when circumstances change, but when your choices become unshakable. You can't wait until it feels good. You can't wait until it gets easier. The sacrifice has to come first. And the more intentional you are with what you're willing to give up, the faster you'll rise. What once felt like loss will begin to feel like freedom. Because you're not just letting go of distractions, you're letting go of the parts of you that were never rooted in purpose to begin with. This isn't about suffering, it's about alignment. Sacrifice isn't punishment. It's preparation. You're trading small pleasures for deep peace. You're giving up short-term comfort for long-term clarity. You're moving from noise to necessity. And every time you choose to pay that price, you step closer to a life that reflects who you truly are. You started late, so you must move light. Let go of the weight. Let go of the noise. Let go of anything that doesn't serve the fire inside you. Because what you're building requires your full capacity. And when your sacrifice matches your vision, time will no longer be your enemy. It will become your tool. When you start late, you can't afford to move blindly. You need more than just effort, you need direction. Without vision, hard work is scattered. But when you're fueled by a clear purpose, every step gains power. Vision becomes your compass. It shows you where to aim, what to avoid, and what to pursue. It cuts through confusion. It silences distractions. It keeps your eyes forward when your past tries to pull you back. And once that vision is locked in, your energy becomes the engine that brings it to life. You can't just want to succeed. You need to see it. Feel it. Live it in your mind before it ever shows up in reality. Because that internal clarity is what guides your external consistency. Without a clear why, the work feels heavy. With it, the same work feels sacred. You no longer move from pressure, you move from purpose. That's what separates those who rise late from those who never rise at all. It's not time. It's not talent. It's vision paired with aligned energy. There will be days when the path feels long, when progress seems slow, and when doubt tries to settle in. That's when your vision has to speak louder than your current circumstances. It must remind you why you started, what you're building, and who you're becoming. You're not just chasing success, you're creating identity. You're designing a future that reflects your truest self. That level of clarity doesn't just inspire you, it fuels you. It becomes the reason you stay disciplined when it's inconvenient. It becomes the anchor when the process tests your patience. And that's where energy matters. Because this isn't just physical, it's mental, emotional, spiritual. You have to protect your energy like it's your lifeline. That means feeding your mind with truth, not noise. That means surrounding yourself with people who sharpen your vision, not blur it. That means resting when needed, but never retreating. You must learn to recharge without disconnecting from your purpose. Because your energy is what sustains the long nights, the focused work, the relentless repetition. When you move from a place of vision, your energy multiplies. You're no longer drained by distractions or exhausted by uncertainty.